What are you making now, Daddy?
I'm using this homemade wooden jig to drill these bog oak blanks that I've made from the leftover bog oak from my knife handle project. And I'm drilling a 7mm hole down the centre of these using a 7mm brad point drill bit. I'm just gently going through this, clearing the swarf, and just creating a nice neat hole all the way through. And here I'm just test fitting the brass pen tube, 7mm brass pen tubes. Just test fitting those into the blanks. And here I'm keying the surface of the pen tubes on some coarse wet and dry paper so that the glue has something to hold against. Doing the same, drilling the this acrylic pen blank now. I'm going to make some acrylic beads. But I'm not using a 7mm drill bit, I'm using a 1/4 inch drill bit for these because I won't be lining these with brass tubes. The same process, drilling through down the centre of the pen blank. So this is where we're up to with making the beads on the lathe, the lanyard beads. I've glued the pen tubes in, the 7mm brass pen tubes, into the Irish bog oak. And you can see I've blocked the tubes up with a bit of wax each end, and I use slow setting epoxy. I didn't want the epoxy getting into the tube, so I just blocked them up with a bit of wax. And yeah, there's the other one I did. And here's an acrylic one. This is a camo pattern acrylic pen blank, which I drilled. I didn't line that with brass. You don't need to with the acrylic if it's just going to be used as a bead. You can if you like, but it's not necessary. So I didn't do a 7mm hole, I did a 1/4 inch hole, 6.3mm hole in that one. And it's just the right size hole for putting a double strand of paracord through. But there we are. I'm going to put those through the bandsaw next to cut them to lengths, which I can then put on my pen jig and turn them into beads. So I'll put the lanyard beads through the bandsaw now. So I've cut up the little blocks, so I've got my little blanks for my beads. And they're the Irish bog oak with the little brass liners, and I've squared them off. I just put them on my disc. I've got a sanding machine with a disc sander, and I just squared them off on that. So they've got nice flat surfaces each end now, and they're all roughly the same diameter now, or same width. And there we go. Did the same with the acrylic ones, so they're all ready to go. I'm fitting my pen mandrel into the headstock. It's got 2 Morse taper, and I'm threading the bead blanks onto the mandrel with a spacer or shim between each one, and I can do 4 at once on this pen mandrel. I then bring the mandrel saver up with the tailstock, and now I'm starting to rough them to round using a spindle roughing gouge. I've sharpened my spindle roughing gouge, and I'm just taking all the corners off, getting them down to round. This is the Irish bog oak that as I said, that I used in my knife project, and it was a gift from my friend Alan Simpson. And thanks again, Alan, for this, much appreciated. But you get a beautiful finish on this. It's very hard. And here I'm using my spindle gouge to start creating the bead shapes, just rolling it round, rubbing the bevel. I lost a little bit of footage here, the memory card had filled up without me realising. But just refining the shape a little bit with my spindle gouge, which is very, very sharp. Just taking my time and getting the profile just nice. I've got the lathe running quite fast here. It's probably about 2,800 RPM. Just rolling it round. making sure you keep rubbing the bevel so you don't get a catch. You have to angle the gouge round a little bit as you get round to the towards the mandrel. Otherwise the cutting edge is no longer in contact. I've made all different beads using this technique. I've used all different woods. I've used African blackwood, which gives a nice finish. I've used layered wood, sort of segmented wood that I've made. I've even used red fibre liners in the layers so it matches the knives I'm making. But it's a very good method. I've used several different acrylic pen blanks as well. You can make some quite brightly coloured beads using the acrylic pen blanks. And I made a bracelet for my daughter using this technique. There are some very lovely pen blanks around that you can use for making beads. Just finishing the shape here. I'm happy with that, so I'll start sanding. This is Woodturner's mesh that I'm using here. And I'll just run through a few grades, getting rid of any tool marks. And it goes quite quick, it's not difficult to do. And here I'm just finishing up with a very, very fine bit of sandpaper. Here I'm loading on the acrylic blanks. No brass tube in these, they're 1/4 inch, they fit the mandrel as they are. Same process. Spindle roughing gouge, getting them to round. Just gradually taking them down. You know when they're round because you start getting these long ribbon-like shavings. Just clearing the shavings away, and then I'll take the corners off using a spindle gouge. The shavings become a bit of a nuisance really, they stop you seeing so well what's going on. But doing this you don't get chipping out just by doing it gently and carefully. Nice sharp gouge. You don't have any grain to worry about, of course, with acrylic. I've got the shape roughly as I want it using the spindle gouge, and I then use a skew as a negative rake scraper just to round everything off. I find this easier with the acrylic, just gets rid of any ridges. I'm just rolling that round, getting it right in up against the mandrel. Once I'm happy with the profile, I then start to do some sanding. I spent too long messing about trying to sand these, and I needed to turn the lathe speed down a little bit because it's easy to overheat. But I'm using Turner's mesh here, just sanding them through the grades a bit. Then I used my Yorkshire Grit, and this stuff is fantastic. This saved me so much hassle, and it brought them up to a lovely finish. Saved an awful lot of sanding and messing about. Because it's wet sanding, it's better for the acrylic really. You don't get any of that smearing or melting. And I would thoroughly recommend using Yorkshire Grit for this sort of thing. I'll then use burnishing cream just to give the acrylic a final polish. You apply that with the lathe stationery just as you would the Yorkshire Grit. and then buff it all the way. It's a very fine polishing compound, burnishing cream. It's really good on acrylic. And yeah, I know a lot of people use it on pen blanks, although as I said in the previous video, I've never turned a pen. But there we are, they've come up really shiny. Then we've got to finish the ends. So I've made a tiny little jam chuck out of a piece of brass bar, which has got a little taper on the end. And I'm just sanding the end here using the turner's mesh. I've got the grades lined up on the lathe beds in front of me. I'll just finish off with a bit of abrasive pad there, which I think is 1200. Pull it off the mandrel, turn it round, and then do the other end of the bead. You get a lovely finish doing this. Then I do the acrylics, and with these I didn't sand them, I just went straight onto burnishing cream with these, just to polish the ends. Piece of cloth and some burnishing cream, turning it round, doing the other end. I like the pattern on these camo beads, I think it's quite cool. There we are, that's the beads prepared. Well, here are the lanyard beads off the lathe. Got a nice finish on that Irish bog oak, absolutely gorgeous wood. It comes up beautiful. Just using that mini jam chuck, you can finish the ends off really nicely. And yeah, and here's just to show it on some paracord. So 2 strands of paracord will go through 1/4 inch, and it's got a friction fit. There we are. What's going to happen with those now is they're going to be soaked in some finishing oil, and then there'll probably be several coats of finishing oil allowed to dry between each coat and wiped off. But that's the Irish bog oak, and here's the acrylic camo, and they've come up really nice as well. But they don't need any oiling, of course. They're all done. There we are. 4 camo beads in acrylic. Thanks for watching, and thanks to all my subscribers. Please like, share and subscribe. And I'll be back soon with some more videos. I'll be attending the Yandles woodworking show this coming weekend on Saturday the 10th of September. So if you see me around, come and say hello. Be nice to meet a few of my subscribers. Anyway, I'll be back soon with some more videos.
More videos coming soon.